Hi everybody, I'm going to make a short little video here that shows you how you could make your report for the end of the semester, the plan change process. And so I'm going to use the sample with the client Melissa. So it's in the competency capstone packet. So that's where you'll find it. So read the actual case study itself there in the packet before you watch all this. So I'm not going to read the whole case study. I'm just going to assume that you have read it, and then I'm going to tell you and sort of model for you how your report would go in terms of the showing how the stages of the plan change process work and what theories and models you use to develop your assessment and your plan. So my client is Melissa, and she's the 35-year-old woman who's married to Jeffrey, and he has been very abusive and resulted in a head injury for her, traumatic brain injury. She's at the shelter and she's trying to deal with all that. So I'm going to be looking at my notes here. This is how your report would go. So the first phase of the plan change process is engagement. And so this was a woman who came to the shelter on her own and wanted to receive services because she was so afraid, and also because she worried about her kids at this point. And so I took a strengths perspective, even though she didn't see much in herself that was a strength, and used those strengths to build on. And also looked at a diversity perspective because she has a couple forms of diversity. As a battered woman and as a person with a disability, she has some needs there that need to be paid attention to. Also use the person and environment perspective because it's not a very good fit. In fact, it's a terrible fit between her life and what she has now and what she really wants, and how the environment that she's living in is not supportive of her. So in terms of the following skills that I used to get going with her, I had to do a lot of active listening because she was needing to talk, and it was about the first time she'd really ever told any professional about this. And I needed to build rapport with her so that she would trust me to help her and her children. Also used lots of open-ended questions and empathy because this was a very hard thing for her to share. So the phase 2, which is assessment, I used a number of theories, and because she blamed herself for a lot of what had happened in her life, and because she had been conditioned to endure her abuse, the two theories that were important there were the attribution theory and the behavioral theory. Also, the biopsychosocial theory is important because her traumatic brain injury definitely impacts her social functioning and limits it, in fact. So conflict theory also comes into play because Jeffrey used a lot of intimidation to control his family, and that conflict, that ongoing threat and that ongoing stress made it really difficult for her. She's in the action phase of personal change, and that is informed by the cycle of change theory. It's a good thing that she's in the action phase because she really needs to do something, and she knows that now. Family systems theory would help us look at how everything that's going on is interrelated, including her extended family, and everything everyone does impacts everybody else's social functioning. Now, she hasn't developed her identity very well yet because she hasn't had the opportunity. Now, with her traumatic brain injury, it's going to be even harder for her to develop her self-identity apart from her husband, and because she's probably not going to return to him because he's hurt her so much. So she's going to have to find a way to figure out who she is actually. She does have a lot of strengths, and I've listed them here on the sample. She is motivated, she loves her kids, she's definitely a survivor, she wants help, and she wants to live an independent life. She's got lots of problems, including her head injury, her lack of education and skills for a job. She has a husband who is very scary and threatening, and she has children who now have problems in school and interaction because of all that. So then we get to the third phase of the plan change process, which is the actual intervention. And what we're going to talk about there is the models that we use now. Almost always we're going to use a client-centered model, which is where the client gets to say what the goals are and what kind of services she wants, and participates in the treatment plan. Now, this is going to be a little hard because of her traumatic brain injury, but we're also going to use cognitive behavioral model. Maybe not full therapy, but we're going to use that approach because she has a lot of negative beliefs about herself, and she's going to need to find some positive stories about herself so that she can continue to build her life. She's also very emotional and afraid much of the time, has a lot of anxiety, so we're going to teach her some DBT skills while she's here at the shelter to manage those emotions. Definitely going to use an empowerment model because this has to come from her and help her find her strength from within. In our program, we have a support group that operates on a narrative therapy model, so that involves people retelling their lives, retelling their story, and creating a new story for their lives. And so we'll use that, and we'll also use a very sort of cut and dried approach, which we call the task-centered casework and task-centered practice, because there are certain goals that need to be met and very measurable objectives, and we're going to look at those. So I'm not going to run through the whole treatment plan because you can look at it on the sample, and it will take too long to talk your way through it. But as you can see, there are several goals and a number of objectives for each one of those. And then I do want to mention briefly that the way we're going to measure this treatment plan and its success is also based on an empowerment and a client-centered way of looking at things, because first of all, she decides what the plan is, and then she will get to decide what success is. She'll be able to stay a maximum of 8 months. Hopefully she'll be able to come to terms with lots of things by then, and maybe get some job skills and whatever educational level she can achieve. Her kids will get some help. So based on her objectives, if we meet those together, that will be success. So we'll look at the achievement of our goals. That will be one way. Another way to measure the success is her self-report, and what does she think about how she's done, and whether she's ready for moving on in her life to independent living. We will also use all of the pre and post tests that our agency uses, and that includes things like pre and post of independent living, of attitudes toward herself, of parenting skills, anything like that. And so we'll be able to measure progress on all of those goals. So we're looking forward to working with Melissa and her family, and I hope that approach to using theories and models made sense to you. Look forward to seeing your videos as well.